Hi all, Carl here. So a friend of mine recently asked me for some painting advice, and I figured the easiest way was to break down my painting process and record a few videos about that. To be clear, I'm an okay painter at best. I'm not a competition painter, not interested in competitions, and to be honest, the only thing I have going for me is that I've been around the block a few times. I also don't believe there's any one way to paint things, the one true way. And if anyone tells you otherwise, you feel free to call out the bullshit. Still listen to them, they might have some valuable input, but trust me, there is no one way to do it. At the end of the day, I'm just a random idiot with a paintbrush, so if you spot anything weird in the video or anything strange in the techniques I'm using, or know any better ways, please let me know. Any comments or critiques are always appreciated. Before we get to the painting, let's go over some points which may be important for beginners. The first one is that you probably need to lose the attitude. The idea is that many people, many beginners will paint one miniature, make a mess of it, then decide they're shit and give up. But the thing is this, the first 10, the first 20 miniatures you're going to paint are always going to be shit pretty much. No one is born knowing how to paint. And that's the difference, you're not shit, you're untrained. Big difference. I mean, if you pick up a guitar for the first time, you don't expect to be able to play 7 Seas of Rye off like that, right? Same thing with painting. If you don't believe me, here's one of the first miniatures I painted. Yes friend, the person you asked for painting advice painted this. This was way back when I was 12, and I think we can agree it's awful. I like to think I've improved since, even if I took a 20-year break at one point, so I'm going to use the exact same sculpt to explain my process. If you're still getting bad results after 2-3 years, we can have this discussion again, but for the moment, get it out of your head. Okay, now that's out of the way, let's get to painting. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to go from the unpainted miniature to a nice clean base coat, because I think that's the foundation for everything else. Whatever you're going to do to the miniature on top of that, like highlighting, shading, whatever, it all depends on the quality of your base coat. So I think that's a good first step. In the future videos we'll develop the details more. First thing I usually do is put the miniature on a handle. In this case I pinned it to one, but you can just as easily lightly glue the base or just hold it in place with putty. You don't need a fancy handle here, I'm just using a cork from a wine bottle. I also glued a pound coin to the bottom to give it a bit more weight. The handle makes it easier to hold the miniature while painting, which is less tiring for the hand. It also lets you work without touching the mini with your hands, which means you don't have to worry about messing your paint up. Next, let's prime the miniature. Acrylic paint doesn't stick easily to plastic, and in any case, not all miniatures are made from the same color plastic. What we want is a surface that can take paint well and is a consistent color, so that when we apply a layer of paint, we can predict what it will look like. We're going to use a black acrylic primer spray. Shake your can for a few minutes, hold it about 30 cm from the miniature, and spray in short, sharp bursts, moving across the mini. Don't hold the nozzle down, or you will get too much paint on the miniature, and any detail will get flooded. By the way, I normally do this in batches of 5 to 10 miniatures, doing them one by one wastes of paint. I like to do a second step with a white acrylic primer spray. Again, hold the can about 30 cm away and spray short, sharp bursts, this time holding the mini at an angle. This lets you see which parts of the miniature should be catching light, and allows you to spot details which might otherwise be hard to see. While the paint is drying, let's have a look at our brushes. Here are a few of mine, ordered largest to smallest. In general, I do most of my painting with the number 6 brushes, which are the largest here. The larger the brush is, the more paint it will hold, and the easier it is to get smooth results. and the pointed brush still allows you to get into most places. For base coating especially, you will be painting with the side of the brush rather than the tip, so really fine tips don't really help much here. I do sometimes use the number 2 brush when I'm painting fine detail, but I don't think I've ever used the 000 or the insane detail brush. The starter brush here is a bit worn, so you can guess I use it a fair bit. But that's only because at one point that was the only brush I had. On to the paints. I'm using artist's acrylics, but for what we're doing today, it makes no difference whether you're using these or specialized major paint. Brent from Goobertown has a fantastic video about how paints work, but for now what I want you to focus on is the consistency of the paint. The consistency we're looking for right now is usually described as something like skimmed milk, but since different paints start out at different consistencies, it's best if you just look at the paint in the video and try to match that by adding water to your paint. This consistency will allow you to paint multiple layers without clogging up the model. Once you've loaded up the brush, just stroke it with the side of your brush. The longer the strokes, the smoother the end result will be. Don't try to get perfect smooth results on the first pass. Just make one coat, and when that dries, apply a second, and if necessary, third. By then it should be really smooth with most colors, but if you do need effort, that's fine too. Here I've done all the brown bits first and let them dry. Then I did the greens and the blacks after each other. I can do this because these two colors are not adjacent to each other, so there is no risk of the colors bleeding into each other while they're wet. If you're doing a batch of miniatures at the same time, you don't really need to worry about this, as by the time you finish the layer on the last model, the first one will probably be dry. There is no magic here, just keep applying layer after layer until you get a smooth coat. As long as the consistency of the paint is okay, don't worry about the details looking like they're clogged up after the first or second coat. That's mostly water, and the detail will be revealed again when it dries. Some colors like red or yellow typically need a bit more work, but it's just more of the same, layer after layer. Sometimes you may also need to use the tip of your brush to get to an inconvenient place, but you'll figure out when you need to do that. If you get any paint anywhere it shouldn't be, don't panic. Just use a damp brush and swap the paint away. Since we're using thin layers, it's pretty easy to do. And that should be it for this step. Your miniature should now be base coated and ready for any further steps you want to take. In the next video, we'll look at adding some shading and highlighting. For the time being, I have also left the sword and the round thing on the bracer unpainted, and we'll tackle those in future. Thanks for watching. If you have any critiques or suggestions, please let me know. I will be working on the next part of this tutorial soon, but in the meantime, stay safe and have a great time.